Hello, everybody. Welcome to Women of Consciousness. In today's episode, we are just going to be catching up on what has been existing in our own healing journey, which is always fun. Um, has the ceremony. So if you want to just update us on your ceremony and all the yummy, yummy goodness that's been going on with that.
Thanks, Natalie. Um, yeah, when we left off last week, when we were talking about like our healing journey, I was gearing up and preparing for a beautiful retreat weekend with plant medicine. Um, I had some San Pedro, which is a cactus, right? Masculine energy, kind of like peyote, but from South America. Um, so it's beautiful. It wasn't my first experience with this medicine. I was in the position of facilitating. I wasn't, a guest journeying on the map. So I was able to hold space for others. What I love about the cactus is how mellow it is, right? It's called like the grandfather, where ayahuasca is this grandmother medicine. And I think those that are familiar with ayahuasca, right, it's pretty tumultuous on the system and the way you have to purge. And with San Pedro, it's almost the complete opposite. It's the reward. I love to think of it after someone had said it that way. It's the reward for all the hard work that you have put in, that you've already done on the journey. So with the other medicines, they're pretty like quick to drink, and they just, taste awful like usual. And then it impacts the body in whatever way that it does. And with San Pedro, it's a jug, like, a mason jar there, of like this green slime that thickens the longer it sits. And so like you kind of have to fight the nausea and just get it in as quick as you can. And then it just has like this heaviness in the gut. Um, but otherwise it's waves and it's really mellow, and it's like maybe a 12-hour journey. So take it in the morning and it goes all day. And the first couple hours you feel really mellow, and then it climaxes and reaches, its peak for a few hours, and then like kind of comes down in waves. And so I was really embodied with the consciousness of the cactus. Um, I just, it was so profound and beautiful. Like I could feel it. And that's the cool thing I've noticed with like the more you do like ayahuasca or psilocybin, the way you like form relationships with the different plant medicines. You feel them when you're going into that space. And so for like a good week or two beforehand, I was already like in that dehydration, in that thirst, feeling, the energy, knowing what I was kind of gearing up for. So once I got in there and I was under the medicine, it was just like I just kept going back to water, into like the shower. I kept going back into the sun, and I felt like my body was holding in all of the water. I remember playing with like the water droplets in the shower and watching them look like almost like frozen in time, and then like slow motion going down and then slow motion going up. So it's like these cool kind of visuals for sure. But it's just a deeper sense of connection to the earth and a deeper connection to like plant consciousness. And so with that, I had a moment where I thought about all of my plants at home and how like, I take care of them, but I also am neglectful, like just kind of come and go, and the plants are on the stands or in the windows or whatnot. And so it really gave me more of a connection, I think, to like wanting to do better. When I was a little girl, my grandmother's house was like a jungle, a sun porch and room after room. There was like draping, spider plants in the doorways. And I would always do like little instrument and tools she had for like the soil, the dryness, little like rakes or whatnot to move around the topsoil level. And so I would always just kind of play with the plants. And so I've always maintained like at least a good dozen or so in the house as a reflection and reminder of that. So that just kind of reconnected me to my inner child. And and that message of of life, right, of consciousness, and knowing the heaviness in my stomach was how deeply rooted and seeded like consciousness is into the earth. So as much as it was discomfort to my body, to my mind, it was again just a deeper sense of connection and awareness. Um, so it was really profound. And then I think the other side of that was just like I said, it's like 12 hours and you're kind of on these wavelengths and it's mellow. And so I played, we have like a little bubble machine, and man, I love the people that I facilitate with and that hold this space. They're so amazing. And that masculine energy, like you can see it put to work. So we're on our fourth like trial of combination of a smoke machine hooked up to a bubble machine.
Mm, mhm,
So that
mhm,
like it will blow out bubbles in intervals that will have smoke in them, and naturally like they'll pop, or you can pop them with your finger and like poof, little like smoke bursts.
mhm,
So like
mhm,
these are things that we created in ceremonial space that we now play with in ceremonial space. And then there was like this woman that did yoga had brought this like it looked like a rainbow unicorn tail. It was like a whiplash, a whip like LED thing like that you could twirl at night. And I just
mhm.
remember like spinning and playing with that and dancing to the music so much. So just a beautiful release of lots and lots of energy, and just so much inner child resurfacing. So it
Yeah,
was a
that's awesome.
profoundly beautiful weekend. And I feel so blessed more than anything. Like you come out of it like feeling this high state of gratitude and feeling blessed that like this is the path of initiation my soul has kind of guided me down, that I've been
Mhm,
able
mhm,
to connect with other conscious, plants that
mhm,
have brought healing into my body and entwined with my consciousness, and brought messages and insight and connection to the universe and beings. So it's just so amazing. And I think we're kind of on that shift where these medicine retreats are popping up. They're becoming, legal in a lot of ways. As our times are shifting and changing, and there's a need for them, and people are searching for this. And again, I think the soul calls you, the medicine calls you. So
mhm,
when it's your time, you find that place to experience what you need to experience. And so it just blows my mind because I can't imagine who I would still be without this. Like I would never have tapped into this level of healing and potential. I would not
mhm,
be where I am today without the past 2 years now of ayahuasca, psilocybin, and San Pedro and combo, um,
mhm.
playing such a beautiful role in my journey.
Yeah, and it is, I think,
Because of
like you
how.
said, it, like, calls to you, right? Like, a specific, like, and it, because not everybody's called to plant medicine,
Right. Yes, that's why I
and they
say
are
calling for
maybe in their
sure.
time or whatever, but, there's certain people that are called to that, and that's their way of journeying and getting going through initiation and all that stuff, um, and I think it's awesome, and I know it's healing too. I know plant medicine is very healing for people's journey and stuff like that, and tapping into the creative potential that we have as well. So that's pretty
Mm.
cool.
Yeah.
For me, plant medicine is it'll come when it comes if it comes.
Right.
That's how I say it. You know what I mean? I'm not a seeker of it. It's like it'll have to be the right time, right place, right
Yeah.
circumstance, all meeting up into one head, and I it's not that I haven't done any kind of psychedelic stuff, but I also feel like, for me, it's gonna be a journey that's not as active in my life for consciousness healing. And I'm not saying it's not going to be a part of my life, but, there's people
Right.
who are that they're medicine carriers, that's what they do, you know what I
Right.
mean? Medicine is the thing. And, I think for me, a lot of mine is, purification of the body and using the yes, this I'm gonna say it, the sexual energy, the natural energy that's life force that comes from with the body to detox and learning how to wield that and move that around, which I've noticed has been such a huge transformation,
Mhm.
transformative process for me, which is like tapping into that creative potential. And
Yep.
it's like I get the creativity in the belly, what that means now. Like I totally understand that, which before I kind of did. But it's this ability to allow the energy, if you want to call it Kundalini, to move up and let it do its work and organically let the creativity emerge. Which for me has been painting for whatever reason, you know?
Mm.
I think I've always had this because I love art. Art is my thing. I love art. You know me, I have a ton of art, but I never saw myself as an artist.
Right.
Um, and, people are like, "Oh, did you paint this? Did you paint that?" I'm like, "No, I don't paint." But for whatever reason, the creative potential that I've tapped into has been in painting. And it's it's been so profound for me because it's like I just totally lose myself in the painting. Hours go by and I don't even realize it. Like nothing else is on my mind but just me and the painting. And it's
Mhm.
just kind of a it's really kind of intriguing and interesting for me, right? They call them in psychology, call it flow states, right? That's
Yep.
where you're in the flow state. But in this flow states, I'm having more and more and more and more flow states, and to the point where I just want to like be in flow state. Like I feel like I can just be there forever. Um and then all reality just disappears, right? And so me and the painting, have kind of emerged into this one thing together, and just being able to do that has been I don't know. I just feel like I need to paint. That's just
Right.
what comes up. And a lot of it is just, abstaining from, the from actually releasing sexual energy, which has been kind of crazy. It's been my medicine, really. And also healing parts of myself internally that have yet to be healed. Like, with the feminine energy within me needs a lot of has a lot of healing to do. Because uh I think my masculine, internal masculine has stepped up to the plate to protect myself because obviously don't have I never felt like I had a really good example of male protector.
Mm.
And so, because of that internally, it's rising in me to protect that feminine. But if I can allow this energy to be healed, I can tap into
Mhm.
this feminine energy and allow the creativity of my feminine gift to just flow forth. And that has been again painting.
Mhm.
That's been my medicine. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's pretty cool, like I was the other day, I was like, to tap into Da Vinci energy because Da Vinci's like, right? He was badass. Like I didn't realize how awesome Da Vinci was until I saw his work and his art and really what he was doing. Like he was more than an artist, right? He was way more
Mhm.
than
Yeah.
I ever even knew he was at one point, right? Because I was like, just the Mona Lisa, who cares? No, he was so much more than that. And so I had gone to this like um, it was a traveling exhibit of Da Vinci, and I went in and saw all of his sketches, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like his sketches were so beautiful. And they were so lightly done. Like he didn't use force. It was almost like he lightly just penciled. And so, you know, in my way, like I don't know the technique. It's a specific technique that they used as painters, as whatever. But in his sketches, I was like, whoa, like this guy used the tiniest of tiny little sketches to sketch things out. I mean, and it just looks so beautiful. I was like,
Mm.
whoa. So when I was painting, I'm like, just use these tiny little strokes to like paint and tapping into that like energy And then, being kind of proud about what I created. I didn't have to sketch it. I just used paints and feeling the connection to the energy because it was snake energy that I was working with, and feeling the snake through the paint.
Mm.
It's like, how do I connect this paint into this snake that I'm drawing? And how do I tap into maybe this Da Vinci energy that just used light strokes to like paint this thing, you know what I mean? And make it as
Yeah.
realistic as I could possibly make it. But that has been my healing, and it's been pretty profound and amazing, to be quite honest with you. And I'm still learning, right? I'm still going through the process of it as well.
Mhm.
I think, we both are, and
Yeah. Oh,
it's a
yeah.
continued
Never ends.
journey.
Right? Never ends.
But yeah, but I mean, in the creativity before is very masculine,
Yeah.
and it's, I was all
Mhm.
charts and models and this and that,
Right.
and now I'm like paint, and I just want to throw paint all
Yeah.
over myself and roll around or something. I don't know. That's
Yeah. I know it's crazy because I feel like what you were saying earlier resonated with me in an opposite way. Right, because here we are opposites. Like, my dad was my protector. Like, I my me being such a feminine little girl, like my daddy what I can remember having this girl Bethany in the fourth grade that was like a bully, and I don't know why, like, she was mean to me. I have no idea to this day. Like, it's still like it's something I'm healing from, right? Like, why was I picked on? Anyways, I can remember running, like the school bell would end and my dad was parked like right there at the bottom of the hill, like, feet away from the school door. And I can remember being like 8, 9 years old and just running to my dad's car and just knowing, like, if I can just get to him, I'm safe. I don't have to worry about this girl like anymore until tomorrow when I have to come back, and then I can run away at the bell to my daddy again. So I what did that lead me? He tried. I can remember being in the kitchen and him like trying to teach, like, kickboxing, like, his leg going like higher than my head. And he's like, Pam, this is how you got it. You just kick. And he wanted me to defend myself against the bullies and against like the world, right? He wanted me to be strong enough. And I wasn't. I really wasn't. I was too weak. My masculine was, I don't know, quiet, like asleep. Like, I don't know where he was because I didn't ever know until the past decade there was a masculine energy in there that needed to protect me, that had been failing, right? Had been wounded, had been silent, and had been failing. And my feminine energy was looking for that protection in external men, and
Mm, mhm,
that almost cost me my life from my
mhm,
ex-husband.
mhm,
And the
mhm,
fact that I
mhm,
was willing to give away that life and you know what I mean, literally die to save myself, is what was really like the catalyst for this rebirth, of my
yep,
conscious awakening. And so I totally understand, because now I've been in that same space of balancing this
mhm,
masculine that I had to find deep within inner child energy, bring into awareness, heal, accept, integrate. And now I can feel when my masculine is keeping me protected and safe so my feminine can rise into that creative unknown space. And for me, it's writing. And um it's hard because we're told how to strategically write, right? We need to have outlines, we need to have all of these. And I always struggled with that, because the outline is the masculine, the outline is that logic and strategic. The feminine is what just kind of gaps those sentences together through expression. And I was always like, I just need to express. I'm not going to do your outlines. And so now, like, I can create like a workbook and recognize, okay, my masculine is setting the space with the font and the size and the structure of the page, and my feminine's coming in with that paintbrush, like you said, and is painting the words on the page.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I can feel their balance and their harmony. And
Mhm.
it's so deeply profound because I used to struggle with the same thing. I'm not a creative person. And that's not true. We are all creative because the Kundalini life force is creative. We wouldn't
Mhm.
be here if we weren't creative. So that's just these things that we're told and taught and we believe and that aren't true or aren't fully understood and comprehended at deeper levels. So I think it's beautiful that we have both found this inner unity, right? And that's what we've really have been talking about and discussing is this path of inner unity of the masculine and feminine, which then is mirroring and projected into our external world where we really have to navigate through
Yeah.
day to day.
Yep. Yeah, I think and that's a beautiful way, to put it, you know? I like that harmony
Mm,
with like, there is the structure, but there's also the ability to be creative within the structure.
yes.
Yeah, and it kind of bounces back and forth, you know what I mean? And so, I like the idea of like, the paintbrush being the feminine, the stroke of the paint itself. And I think that's the same with painting, right?
Mhm.
It's like this color, you have your canvas. You can say that's like this masculine structure that you're painting
Yep.
in this like frame. And then the brush
Yeah.
decides the creativity, which has just been like, it's just like very, um, it's pleasing, like, I just get totally immersed, and I'm like, "Oh, how do I play with color?
Mm,
How do I harmonize the colors together and move it together?" And so I just it's really kind of crazy, to think that, just doing this practice has ignited this creative potential that was dormant and just
mm,
kind of maybe waiting there to be, awoke or
yep.
woke. So, and now that it is, and I've worked with Kundalini energy before, but this is different. This is not the same.
Mm,
And, I don't know if it's because working with another individual and it's triggering other things inside of me that I couldn't just trigger with my own self, right? Like there's this external force that's kind of helping me. But, with just doing the breath work of Kundalini and, all of the other stuff that I've done, I have never tapped into the amount of creative potential that I have at this moment.
yeah.
It's just amazing, actually. And it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, is it just the wave? But I just feel this call. It's almost like the call that I felt when I first started the podcast because I was just doing it naturally every day. I wanted to drawn to it every day. I wanted to get on and support people through their healing every
Mm,
day. So it was just this like natural calling to just do this thing over and over and over and over and over again, until there's some form of mastery, right?
right.
So, you know, I think that that's kind of where it's at. I'm even like, oh, should I take maybe some art classes just to get some tools, you know, just blends or, this and that and
Right.
the other, but still it's my canvas. I can do what I want with it, you
Right.
know? And then that's life too. It's like we're painting our life, right? It's like
Mhm.
we have this structured world we live in, but we also have this ability to just kind of paint what we want in our life, you know?
Right.
So it's like, are you painting the masterpiece you want or not? And guess what? You can always paint over. So
Right. Absolutely. There are no mistakes in art. My like fifth
there
grade
are no
teacher drilled into
mistakes,
my head.
you know, you
Yeah.
know. But I think yeah, that, the art, the letting it just flow and be what it is. And like the other day it was funny because I was doing this paint and then some of this white paint got on one of my other paintings and I was like, "Oh man." And I was like, "Well, there are no mistakes." And just
Right?
let it be. I mean, what are you gonna do, right? Just let it be what it is, there are
Yeah.
no mistakes. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, and profound. But yeah, I feel really good. I feel, ready to sort of take it to the next journey and see what
Mm.
emerges and springs
Mhm.
forth, you know?
Yeah, I'll agree. I will say, so, like, the whole, like, because the last 3 weeks, for our listeners, obviously, they know we talked a lot about sexual healing. So we've been on this, journey that we've been sharing together for the past month. Um, and then with my whole San Pedro this past weekend. So the biggest thing that I'm working with right now, I think for just like the feminine and the healing in my body is like I started my moon cycle, and I was not expecting that. I honestly, even the way it happened, my body like my relationship is different. Like, right, I think when I was in my 20s and younger, I used to feel like really gross and dirty and a lot of shame. Um
Mhm.
and with my whole healing phase, like I really like I've gotten more comfortable with, just having menstruation and loving myself and not feeling all of those things. And the more that I did that and embraced it, like I stopped having cramps. Um, I stopped having like the pain or whatnot that would come with it, and I got more attuned. So I'm not on like birth control or anything like that. So I can actually track it, and I know like, okay, the new moon, the full moon, like I'm usually pretty much, cycling through them. Um, and I can even feel like a week ahead when I'm bloating, when I'm ovulating, knowing. So like this time, all of a sudden, like I thought something was wrong with me. I thought maybe like I had a bladder infection or kidney infection. Um, it was just so kind. There was no pain. There was no symptoms. Like I had no bloating. I had to like check my date book to look at when I had my last cycle because I thought like I was still a week away. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking, I'm like, how am I so out of tune with my body that I didn't realize like I was getting it today? And that I spent the whole day thinking like maybe I had an internal wound or or something, but yet knowing there was no pain, there obviously wasn't a kidney or bladder issue. Um, so I really kind of beat myself up in that space for a minute, trying to figure it out and navigate it. And then I realized it wasn't that I wasn't attuned to my body, but it was that I wasn't aligned with time. Like that
Mm,
whole 4 week, 28
mm,
day
mm,
cycle or whatnot, like I wasn't in that time structure.
mhm,
And my
mhm.
body didn't, even though it gave off what it needed to, right, to obviously ovulate and go through the menstrual cycle. There's still been no bloating, no cramping. It's so profoundly like light in a way, but yet dark. And it feels so different. Like it doesn't even feel like I'm having it, like, you know what I mean.
Mm.
um so I think
Wow, that's
with
really good.
with the medicine, that like each time I've always noticed how it's interacted with my cycle. And this time, after doing like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of intentional, sexual Kundalini, sacral solar plexus energy healing, right? Working with the bladder, um, to notice how profoundly beautiful and light and pain free this period was and is, I
Wow.
think is
That's
just amazing. And I love my body and I love my cycles. And I really have just embraced that. And I think even the phase, like, I'm glad I have like, 10 years or whatnot before menopause. So, like, because I'm like, yeah, I'm continuing to learn from my relationship to life through my period and how that's showing up. And like, this is, reflecting my last 30 days.
Mm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. You know what? That's really, really, really awesome because that piece, I mean, there's so much to unpack with what you said in terms of like societal, cultural, all that stuff.
Oh my God, I felt
Because
so dirty and nasty and gross in my teens and my 20s. And I'll tell you, like, I don't wear tampons. Like, I
Mhm,
have not used tampons for years. I will not
mhm,
do that anymore. Unless like it's summer and I absolutely want to go swimming. But
mhm,
like, I could like I don't know. I think even just the way of like I collect it and I give it like I have a tree in my yard that even I see how my tree is growing. I think like you were saying earlier, that creative energies, if we truly knew of the life force energy within the blood, like we wouldn't just
Mhm.
flush it down the toilet. We wouldn't think of it as a nasty part of ourselves. Um,
Mm-mm.
so to even just collect that and give that back to the earth's consciousness, like that's, my sacred ritual, and that in itself transpired and transformed the relationship and eased the
Yeah.
pain.
Mhm. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, again, there's a lot to unpack, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Because of the societal structures and stuff like that and how they've made, women's reproductive stuff shameful and bad and gross and whatever it is, like made fun of, you know what I mean? It's like the structures of school, even when you think about school itself is very masculine structure, right? It's
yeah.
like in middle school, you're like, oh, if you go through, what are you going to do? Like that was the shameful or embarrassing or whatever it was. We didn't do that in the past. There was ceremony for women to go and have ceremony around those times. But also, I think a lot of the pain that women are feeling in terms of like the rise of endometriosis and all these other things that are occurring even within me, because I have it, and the pain felt within, the uterus and all that stuff, is just really, really, it gets to be healed. But I think that that's the root of it, right? The root of
Mm,
it is that it was made wrong. And it is this beautiful ceremony. Like we women can detox our body naturally. And like
yeah.
I was telling you with the mezcal, right? When they do the sweat lodges themselves were built for men to detox because they don't have a natural detox, like we do. Our blood, we share our blood with the world. You know what I mean? We're
Mm,
able to share the sangre, right? Like our blood, and men share their blood through warfare. So it's like we don't have to, we give back our blood to the earth through this menstruation. And we are so out of touch with that, societally we are. There's so many like, oh, just get a hysterectomy, oh, just stop it from occurring or whatever it is. um and we don't, it's because we're not in touch, we're not in tune with that part of our body at all. It's like, well, just pretend it doesn't exist, or
mm.
women saying, "Oh, I wished I didn't have this," or
Yeah.
instead of seeing it as this beautiful magical thing that we have. So, I think it's really cool that you were able to heal yourself around that, because
Mm.
that's a lot of the energy that I'm trying to work with and heal for myself, which has been not an easy journey.
No, it
Um
takes time for sure.
Especially because I was overly masculine my whole
Mhm.
life too, you know what I mean? That I
Yeah.
had to put on this shield, that I couldn't fully heal this feminine part of myself, I couldn't let it, um, thrive or be, I didn't have the outlet to do that, um, which is fine. I mean, it's good, I know how to protect myself, but also just cut off and severed off the part of that feminine energy
Right.
that, couldn't fully blossom.
Right.
And so, and that's not easy. That's not an easy process. I'm still trying to work with that, you know what I mean? And allow myself. But I think with the state flows, like the flow states that, like the art and stuff like that has been very helpful. And then the Kundalini, letting it do its work to heal the internal part of myself that's not healed, right?
Right.
I think is important. It's
Absolutely.
the big piece. Yeah. So, but we shall see, right? It's like to be continued. Well, I don't know where this is going,
Right?
or where the journey's gonna take me.
Yeah, we're
But
mapping unknown territory for sure.
yeah, letting that emerge what needs to emerge
Yeah.
without making anything up.
Yep.
Not
Absolutely.
easy. That's a hard place to exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially the more you surrender, at least I'm noticing the more I surrender and trust the process of the unknown, the more it's bringing up the triggers of what is programmed, right? What's programmed for our structural systems, these like relationships, right? We like that's key. We have a relationship to everything. And so
Mm,
it's like recognizing why the mind needed, right, that masculine energy needed to like label
mhm,
and put things in a container, right, because it feels
mhm,
safe. And when you
mhm.
break that container and you're like, okay, I'll have a relationship with you as a friend and like this and collaborate and but yet there's no real safety or security in any of that, right? It's knowing that people are people, and at the end of the day, like, we all can just walk away instantly, and nothing hurts more than getting ghosted.
Right?
And we're dealing with collective and individual abandonment and rejection wounds, to a very high degree, all of us. And so as a species that's meant to be in a herd, right, a collective group, space and mentality, loneliness and being rejected and outcast, all those things come up. So setting boundaries and standing in your power and voicing the truth of who you are and knowing you're still loved and supported, and there's no judgments or shaming, is a whole new system of friendship that I'm navigating and support. And it's so beautiful. And it's like, okay, like, we're just going to see each other's triggers and wounds. We're going to see each other's shadows and light, and we're still just going to hold space and love each other, because I don't need to get triggered by you. I can understand it's you, and I can hold space for you and talk with you. And then we move forward, and there's no fighting. There's no toxic behavior. There's no vengeance. There's no negativity. There's not even an argument. I've never even had an argument in the past like 2 years with any of these people that are like my best friends. It's so beautiful. Like,
Is it,
maybe
and
a little bit.
it's the new earth,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah. It's like, wow, we can
Yeah.
really do this, people. We can really do this. Compassion and love, understanding and forgiveness, right? Like, it's possible.
Well, it is, but it's hard because
It is
the
hard.
individual has to have
Right.
been committed to the work itself too,
Absolutely.
because you
Can
have to
only
take
meet you as far as you've met yourself.
responsibility and accountability and all the things that come with it. So
Yep.
there's a lot of spiritual cleansing that has to happen to get to the point where you can be in relationship like that. And it doesn't mean that it goes away, because the triggers still show up. The old
Oh, yeah.
narratives still surface, you know what I mean? And but the way that you handle it is different. And I think that's where the healing comes from, right? It's the way that we approach it afterwards or in the midst of, and the accountability we could take for our own actions, but also recognize how we may hurt others as well in our own actions, right? And it's both.
Absolutely.
And so, communication is the key. You're right. Like, people just ghost or
Yeah.
have the capacity to stick with it.
Right.
They throw in the towel. They
Right.
don't go the full length. They're just it's easy for people to just walk away. They wanna take the
Yeah.
easy route. Well, it's just easy for me to walk away than it is to stay in the
Right.
fire and do the work.
Right. It's too
And
overwhelming. It's too much. So,
but
yeah.
there are people doing it, and that's the
Right.
beauty of where we're at, like you were saying, and to be held in a high regard regardless of what's coming up, and for people to accept you for who you are, and to really, open up and just be vulnerable and honest. It's a hard thing.
Mhm.
And it takes a brave soul, and it takes courage, and it takes a warrior spirit to be able to do that as well. So not the easiest path to take, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not. And that's why when I definitely do connect with the people that are on the same kind of healing journey and path as me and they're dedicated, um, I definitely always express appreciation for that,
Mm,
especially when I'm doing card readings. And I have, someone who comes to the table and, at
mhm,
the end of it, it's just like we're all going through crap that at times can seem like we're just overwhelmed. It's so heavy, it's so dark, it's so deep, it could really tear us apart. And I think that's where the resiliency heals the wound, and the
Mhm,
resiliency transforms us stronger,
mhm,
and gets us to the other side. And so it's easy for a lot of people, I think, due to society structure, to numb, to find coping mechanisms, and to avoid, and to run the
mhm,
other
mhm,
way, and say, like, I know that's a painful issue, I know that's a painful person or situation, path, whatever, I'm just not going down it. Especially when you look at loss and grief, and letting go, it's really, really hard and difficult. And so I think that's what keeps a lot of the collective stuck in their trauma wounds and in their pain, because they're not willing to go into the gateway of healing at all. Um,
yeah,
and you have to be dedicated to yourself, because at the end of the day, it's the relationship with yourself, your soul, and the universe, and why you're here to create. And for me personally, I mean, I've definitely taken accountability for the hurt that I've caused other people. But at the same point, like we spoke about earlier, I had no internal protection.
mhm,
People abused me and took advantage of me in ways that I was naive. And I thought I was in a safe space with them. And through like manipulation and control, I was just a toy or property. It wasn't even like I was a soul that mattered. And then it was so easy to just be like, oh, you hurt me, so like I'm going to destroy you, you know what I mean? Or you're causing me fear of losing things, so I'm going to hurt you. um
mhm,
and so it could have been easy for me to stay in that pain, right? To hate them, to play a victim or be a victim. But I chose to rise above it, like I'm not, at the end of the day, like we're all here to learn and to heal karma, and to deal with, things, and to reintegrate the lost aspects of our soul. And
mhm,
and I don't feel like I have to stand here and justify myself and my actions, and explain myself until I'm blue in the face. I think it's just about knowing the truth of my heart, and knowing, like, yeah, I may have messed up in the past because my boundaries weren't intact, and I didn't have all of my power, and I had been hurt, and I did have trauma wounds that I was coming from a place of. And so, like, yeah, you can take accountability for that and still love yourself and have compassion for yourself, and choose not to project that onto others, right? Because then all we're doing is perpetuating cycles of toxicity and abuse. And it's coming back to that place of forgiveness and love, and protecting myself, and moving forward. So
yeah,
it's been a heck of a journey. And I mean, I truly, my heart goes out to those, because I definitely have come across, I think, especially like alcoholism, right? Like, I mean, there are a few people I can think of on the top of my head that I don't even know if they're going to make it another decade.
mhm,
They,
mhm,
they've just are killing themselves with alcohol day in and day out,
mhm.
and that breaks my heart. It really does. But at the same point, people don't know how to heal, they don't know how to embrace the pain.
No. Well, they like you said, they use coping mechanisms, and that's,
Yeah.
the coping mechanisms come in the form of drugs, obviously. They
Yeah,
come in the form of many
self-medicating.
other
Yep.
things too. You know what I mean? Anything that we do to avoid sitting in the stillness and the loneliness is a coping mechanism, because at the end of the day, that's the core of it. It's like, can I be with myself fully, wholly, without feeling the need to cling to a coping mechanism? Because once you break that barrier, then you can be in community with other people, right? And build relationships, because you can fully stand on your own. You fully have integrated and healed The parts of you, like you said, that needed healing for you was the protector,
Right.
you know? But until you do that, until you can sit in the stillness and not grasp for something external, and
Yep.
that is the
Yeah.
hardest part of this work.
Yep.
It's not to say that we don't need to be in relationship with people or that relationship isn't important, because it is.
Right.
We need people. But if we get to that point where we feel that loneliness and our first instinct is to grasp for something externally, then we haven't healed truly. We
Right.
should be able to sit in the stillness of our own self
Yes.
and completely sit there. And not just like I'm alone, but in the loneliness, and experience what that is and understand what that is, right? And remember that internally you are not alone. You
Right.
have everything you need. That's where the healing happens.
Right.
And then when you could do that, you're not grasping for an external thing to satiate you or to make you feel good about yourself. You're able to transmute or switch that energy for your own self, right? To be able to switch it and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't need external things to find my joy and happiness, because it is not inherently in anything.
Right.
Joy, happiness, all of those things are not inherently in anybody or anything there within you.
Absolutely.
Another person doesn't bring you joy. Another person doesn't bring you happiness. You bring the happiness to that individual. And then that's a shared happiness. That is the point, because I know
Right.
that I stress it, that it's not about relationship. It's not that I'm saying it's not. I'm saying until you can have that relationship with yourself and fully stand on your own without having to grab for something every time that loneliness sets in, and you can learn to be with you, then you have truly integrated and
Yeah.
healed.
I
But
agree.
it's not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
As soon as the loneliness sets in, what do? We grab our phone. We grab, now it's easy. We have a phone to grab.
Right.
That made it that just totally, that's why everybody's really even more disconnected than they think. They're more connected and disconnected from themselves than they ever were before because of that. Because to sit in pure silence when you're feeling alone and just to be with it, just be with it and not have to grab onto anything.
Mhm.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's the
Absolutely.
hardest point to be at, because then it's like, "Oh, no," and then you're like, you don't even realize the things that you're doing to avoid that stillness.
Right. It's all subconscious, yeah, subconscious programming that
And
you've
then
done to yourself.
yeah, because then it
I
becomes an addiction to the external, and that's where all these addictions come from. And I'm not saying that we don't have addiction and we're not experiencing attachment, because we do. We have to experience attachment if we're here. But it's like if we could remind ourselves, like, "Oh, that's not the thing that was bringing me joy. The joy
mm,
was radiated from inside of me to begin with. It was always there. It wasn't this external factor that was igniting that. It was already there to begin with."
right. Just waves, right? The
And
emotions,
it's
you
but
just
it's
start in
hard.
a different wave
It's
each.
hard. It is
Yeah.
not easy. I think it's a struggle. It's the
No.
human struggle, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
I
is.
think I think sometimes it can be easier for, like, maybe introverted people who are more, like, analytical. Like, for me, I'm definitely, like, self-analysis, so I'll notice, and kind of question it and start following it and observing it, but I had to learn that because I would, like, right, the energy would come in and I was just the energy, so I would act out the energy. So it takes some time to be able to, like, stop yourself, like you said, to stand in it, question it, what's the purpose, what's it serving, and
Mhm.
recognizing that you could be like a witness, right? Like on the beach, watching the wave come in and being able to be like, okay, that's some frustration. Okay, that wave is some joy and happiness. And okay, there's a wave of excitement or a wave of sadness. But I'm not the wave, itself, and I'm not the energy acting out. I don't need to.
Yeah.
And I think there's always, yeah, you always find a deeper, if you can follow the seed of it, like the root to the seed, you always
Mhm.
find the reason why it's there in that moment and what it's serving the purpose of, for
Yep.
sure. And it always leads back to some. wound that needs to be healed,
That's
whether it's
correct.
inner child or
Yep.
relationship
Yep.
or
Yeah,
whatever, or personal struggle, like for self worth and confidence to kind of get you to tap into your potential. Like, so that's all you're avoiding is the healing that's really trying to get you.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, darling. That is totally it. I'm like, and it's hard. It's not an easy thing. So I think it's just working with that energy and understanding it. And I think it gets I think in community though, being able to express it, talk about it, open up about it, share
Mhm.
about it,
Yeah.
um,
That's
work
been
together to heal
tremendous.
around it.
I
Yeah,
mean, I've done
is
therapy in the past. I did, I
mhm,
took therapy as a kid. After my divorce, I was in there for a year with like PTSD and stuff like that. But what I have with this like family community for sure, like, even with you and what we're formulating, in this little
mhm.
shared group, it's beyond what I've ever gotten for any resource in a therapy setting. Um, absolutely.
I agree. It's the real work. It's the work that's being
Yeah.
done, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I
Therapists just
think,
kinda look at you like you're crazy to a certain extent, or at least for me. Of course, I
yeah.
did bring in my oracle cards at one point. It was like, "Look what the cards are telling me," and, like, she was like, "Oh my god," but, like
My therapist actually was like, she learned from me and I learned from her.
Yeah.
She was very open to all this stuff, and I think it's because she knew that I wasn't in a state of psychosis, like, I understood how to use the work to help me
Right.
in this waking life, right?
Yeah.
Like, I knew that I was on this planet Earth, and I knew that I know some things about being in this three-dimensional time structured place, but she knew I wasn't psychotic, so she was
Right.
like, "Oh," so then for her, she was like, "That's an interesting way to look at it." Like, that's and then I would tell her, "Yeah, read into this or read into that," so I think her and I had this, like, relationship where we were kind of, like, educating each other a lot of
Mm.
the time, and then
Yeah.
I would use the clinical terms, but really, that's what they've done anyways. They've used some of these spiritual terms and turned them into clinical
Oh,
terms, which is just
absolutely.
like so I
That's
was like,
why
"Well, look at the spiritual aspect of it," you know what I mean? But
Yeah. That's why I didn't
but
wanna
I
go into the clinical with our degree afterwards. I was like, "This is a great degree program, but I'm not going into a clinical
yeah,
therapy
no.
setting. I'll take
Nope.
it and
No.
use it as we are," and we were growing with it,
Yep. I
because we
wouldn't
need to
either.
bring the soul back
Yep. I
and
agree.
into psychology.
Yeah.
Like, the psyche,
R
people, the psyche. We're, like, totally ignoring consciousness from a soul level.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, anywho's, well, I guess for that will wrap it up for today. Only because I have to go use the restroom, people.
Well, it's
I
about an
drink a lot
hour.
of water. I don't know if I can hold it anymore. But thank you so much for joining us and follow us on womenofconsciousness.com. Sorry. Just gotta be honest on these live videos.
Hey,
Um
don't be sorry.
and yeah, that's true. Don't be sorry.
Nope.
And so anything else, Pam, before we go?
No, Natalie and I are just regrouping after, just some time. If you follow our episodes, and so we're just working on really facilitating, and branching out on the website. We have our goddess circle that we do every month. And so, just super excited to really come back into this space and continue to thrive and create together going forward. And we will definitely keep everybody updated on all of our wonderful projects as they start flowing in and out. So, no, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Have a great day.
you
Talk to you now.
too. Bye.